Frank Watson and Tom Probasco with Tom Probasco's Something to Say. Tom, how you doing?
All right, Frank. How about you?
Oh, doing well, doing well.
All right. Well, I think at the end of last week I had started to talk about and see if you this makes sense to you or not. Um, well, I think I finished up talking about your singer-songwriter uh, recordings that you and I had done together,
Uh-huh.
and we and I think we finished that. So we had took your songbook. Yes, I remember holding that up, and we had talked about that. And I had begun to talk about roadside attraction.
Hmm.
And this was a thing that you had, this stems from the mid 1990s.
Right.
And I managed to get all of those episodes working with a library person and Scott Millsop, who managed to find those recordings. And what he had, so, and that was the trick, is to initially, I think we started with Al Stone. He and Scott both had some of those, but eventually, I think the bulk of them were eating candy because of blood sugar thing, you
Hmm.
know. Uh, and he managed to find them all, and we managed to get them all on, you know, with plugged into and preserved in digitalindie.org. So, and before I forget, I'll just say, if a person goes to digital indie, just like it sounds, .org, you'll that'll bring up the whole collection. If you click on the ARTS box, that'll be the collection that you'll scroll down and you'll see digital indie, or you'll see roadside attraction. And that uh, it's contained within there. It's got all the episodes plus a history of it written by Scott Millsop. But one thing I remember, and we got this done a few years ago by now. And I remember when you and I posted it, probably your post, it caught the attention of several of the participants in roadside attraction. And I remember one of the people, I don't remember who it was a woman. She said, they were, everybody's very happy that it had been captured. And she said, we really had our own um, prairie home companion. That's the way that this person perceived it when they played some of them, perhaps all of them. And I think that's a kind of a good description of it. There were several people involved, some of whom I met, uh, now deceased, Pat Webb, for instance, Chris Webb, who I'm still in contact with, um, you, of course, and then um, um, Scott Millsop, who wrote the history of it, 6 pages, I think. Just a fascinating background. And also Al Stone, who you had kind of pointed me, well, we went and visited Al, but he subsequently It died in 2020, I think, before the project was completed. But there were other people that I never met that you met, that you knew for many years and were involved in that project. And I did see a few of them when you still lived at Sycamore Reserve, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I really would encourage anybody who might listen to this to go to digitalindy.org/arts/roadside attraction. You'll see it there. Um, Also, as remembering your singer-songwriter, and that goes on. You're still, I don't know how many songs you write now. I think maybe there was one you were working on that I don't recall for sure. But you produced the songbook in the mid 80s. Now, there were lyric sheets added later that I had gotten from you, and that got included in the songbook that I held up last week. You recorded them. But there was a time, I remember you said, and I always found this interesting. There was a time when you said you were afraid that the music caused, perhaps caused some people to not take you seriously as a community Near East Side activist. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And can you comment at all on that?
Uh, you know,
If you want to.
yeah, I came to the Near East Side as a youth worker and became involved with the Westminster Presbyterian Church and started uh, writing songs about the time I came to the Near East Side. I'd written some things off and on over the years. I've always written, but I really started writing songs and playing music at about that time. And I was a work in progress, and uh, there were serious issues being addressed in community through the Near East Side Community Organization, and uh, I felt very strongly about them. I wanted to do what I could to improve the lives of people at the low end of the economic scale, and particularly the children. And uh, I had some concerns about the music and people not taking me seriously because I played music, and uh, I ended up actually doing quite a bit of music for uh, NESCO, the Near East Side Community Organization, um, and hosting musical events, open stages at the NESCO Festival. This was a really a volunteer, community-based, neighborhood-based organization. I'm not sure it even exists now. And certainly uh, it was in our desire to improve the neighborhood, uh, we helped gentrify it. And I'm not I, I'm, I'm not sure if it was good or there was some good and some bad associated with the gentrification process. Uh, and I'm 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 concerned. A lot of the violence in Indianapolis had to do, I think, with the focus on gentrification as a process of moving people, residents out of a neighborhood by improving the housing. And as the housing improved, and the people really tried to make it a safer place. Um, Low income people, when they meet that line of advancing improvement, they pretty much have to move out, and there was no funding for youth workers. And that
Which is what you were.
I came in as a youth worker,
Yeah.
and when in order to stay in the neighborhood and to continue to work with people from the neighborhood, particularly young people, I started first a janitorial business, and uh, later on several small businesses, but and attempted to hire neighborhood people. I did hire
Yeah.
neighborhood people,
Right. Right.
and it it was educational for me. uh,
Yeah.
and at one point, um, I was uh, berated. Some fellow took offense at me only paying his girlfriend, uh, who was an artist, uh, uh, and the work that for janitorial work.
Yeah. No.
And
Not
I
he
was
berated you. Yeah, he berated you.
well, I was paying several dollars above the minimum wage, which was better than other people were paying.
So what was he unhappy about?
Well, he felt that she was worth more money.
Oh,
He did not he just did not understand the situation, and I because I was engaged. I approached that as a for profit. I did not try to do a not for profit,
yeah.
and I felt like um, I felt like it was a good thing to pay taxes, which is kind of swimming upstream there. And the people who were working for me did not really appreciate it. They saw it as a for profit, even though they were getting paid better than they could uh, find elsewhere, or they would have gone elsewhere.
Yeah,
Uh,
they just didn't understand, it
yeah,
seems like.
I
Yeah.
I had one fellow, Dan Welling, who I loved like a brother, but he was a very strong union person. Uh, um, I got along with him as a musician, and he played the banjo. I loved his choice of songs, and we played pretty well together. But he saw me as a raging capitalist because I was operating a for-profit business, and uh, it was an interesting time. People have their ideas about what
Reality.
about
Yeah.
reality
Yeah.
and but anyhow, I kind of made peace. I decided I had to play music, uh, but uh, I think the kind of the in some ways the reverse happened because I was actively involved in neighborhood organizing neighborhood cleanups, serving on the NESCO board, and trying to run businesses, which I did not do very well. Really, I'm not a business person, uh, and I ended up probably I did some landscaping uh, for the local CDC,
That
ECI.
was another business.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And some construction such as I could handle, which wasn't much. And
Oh,
I kind of think that in some ways people didn't take the music seriously because I was involved in all these other things.
oh, so it went both ways, sort of,
It went
maybe.
both ways,
Oh boy.
and so I guess I'm okay with all that. You know, I did what I did, and
Well, that's interesting. That see, but the time this was these things that you described, which I've heard parts of before, and it was why I knew you said you had put the music down because of not taking the active. I hadn't heard that the activism, you know, didn't take your music seriously. But in any case, when I met you in 2004, in an effort to find Pat Webb, which you managed to help me do because the internet got going along and somehow in the Ethernet we met. Um, at that juncture, you had just moved Indie Folk News off of email to maybe it was Yahoo. I think
uh,
you were having to move it off. So you were and in a sense, well, not in a sense, for sure, that was an effort to. It was another in a way a business effort to get musicians connected with gigs.
yeah, that there were two factors there. One was Craig Laughlin, who was a very well known and popular folk musician, had a band, and Craig came down with pancreatic cancer, and uh, and trying to help connect people uh, when it came time for his um, celebration of life. My position with Indie Folk News really helped me do that. I could reach out and I could find people because I had connections.
Was that kind of the beginning of any folk news then?
Yeah, that's when it really became Indie Folk News.
Okay.
I had been I had had lymphoma at the time. Craig had been coming to cheer me up, and then he ended up passing before I finished chemo. Uh,
Oh,
but So I had been tired because of chemotherapy, and I was continuing to work. Uh, and I I decided because of it was helpful to Craig that it would that it was really serving a good purpose.
yeah.
The other thing was uh, B.J. Rogers, who had Guitar Island music
Oh,
store,
yes. Yes.
and I would go around and I would talk to music store people, and you know these folks were just wonderful people. I Bill Schaefer, had a guitar shop in Irvington. BJ had one on the south side of Indy. Arthur's,
Yeah.
which BJ referred to as the mothership. They'd been around for a long time. They'd helped a lot of people. A lot of folks had worked there,
Yeah.
and they're just great people. Uh,
Yep. That's for
but
sure.
I was talking to BJ, and I said, you know, BJ, I'm trying to do this indie folk news thing and uh, benefit musicians. What 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 can I do that's really helpful? And he said, Frank, find us work.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if I publicize gigs, then people can see where the gigs are.
Right.
And um, and if I say kind words and point people to the good music stores that are really supportive of the musicians,
Right.
that builds the music community. And if I if I support the businesses, the venues that hire musicians, uh, they can afford to hire them. You know, that helps them afford to hire. And I did that for a long time on my own. Um, and I eventually needed to move on to some other things, creative things. And um, um, I had a friend who took that over for a while, and then when he moved out, uh, uh, David's or not David,
Bill.
Phil Slates took it over and has really kept it going and done a great job
And by the way, it's Indie Folk News on Facebook now.
on Facebook now.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is that's where the people are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm glad you
I
mentioned that.
I I I like being able to support that. I started another uh,
Facebook.
Facebook page called Acoustic Indiana,
Yeah.
and I will post things from that Phil has posted to
Indie.
Indie Folk News, or
Yeah.
people here in Muncie. I repost stuff from all around the state and surrounding states as I see it, and but not just music. I'm interested in sound and the very nature of what constitutes sound, of vibrations, uh, and vibrations. Uh, I'm getting into the study of physics and how we think of the physical world as solid, but when you really start looking deep into the nature of reality, what you end up with is energy in the form of vibration, and a lower vibration uh, makes things solid. You know, that arm there, the chair I'm sitting on, the computer that's in front of me that I'm looking at our pictures on, all that is vibration, uh,
Mhm.
which originally uh, comes in the form of light. That's my understanding of it, which I've read quite a bit about it. I haven't really tried to go back to school and study physics, uh, but I've considered what some very respectable physicists have said and how they have explained things. So I'm interested in the nature of the acoustic world, and I have a great affection for natural acoustics that is that are not enhanced by the electrical, and I'm fond of even something like this, the Zoom, which is, yeah, we use microphones, yeah, we use cameras, uh, but uh, I try to capture sound accurately without creating sound electronically.
Yeah.
And that's just the segment of the sound and of the reality that I'm looking to experience. I,
Yeah.
I I started life uh, in a very rural area outside of Martinsville. My
Was that
uncle,
was that
yeah,
Mihalosville?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Near there?
Mahalesville, and it was outside of Mahalesville.
Yeah. But
Uh,
that was the nearest town,
yeah,
I'm going to tell you.
my uncle was farming with mules. My dad had went in the service shortly after I was born. That was World War II. But the unmediated world where my family didn't go to movies. Uh, we couldn't afford that. We could barely afford to eat. But the world itself was beautiful. It was fantastic. Uh, I remember my early experience of that world, uh, and I have memories that I will vouch for that go back to age 2 or so,
Yeah.
and a lot of people say, "Well, you don't really remember that stuff." Well, okay, you can say that if you want to, but I know what I know,
Right. I
and
remember you talking about, we've kind of touched on this a bit
mhm,
early. Well, when we first started talking about some of the chat books, early memories, early, they're almost not, in a sense, you almost say they're not well, they're memories, but a breeze, a light. Uh, one of these that I read, I think you started talking about an early, well, I think it was the very first one in this chat book number one. I won't read the thing, but it was a yeah, even then, that was the one. Yeah, yeah. That well, it's not right. Yeah, God, how I miss those bright, clear, cool summer mornings with air so fresh and free and full of promise. They stood out even then.
even then,
And I think when I read that, whatever session episode that was, that you were talking about this very, very early, uh, tactile almost, at the age of 2, let's say, or 3 or whatever it was, it it stuck. Does it get altered? I don't know. Does that matter? Uh, you certainly think about it, maybe add, maybe take away. I don't know as time goes on, but the initial impact stayed with you. I
very
don't know how old I
so.
was when this, I was older than that, but it stayed with me long enough that I wrote it down.
It was a time that I I would like for you to spend some time talking with my sister Sue sometime. She remembers a lot of that. She's
Yeah.
a year and a half younger than me, but,
Yeah.
but the things that I was involved in at that age were if I saw someone describing them, I would think, oh, they're making that up, or that sounds really magical,
Right.
and I'm not sure I believe in magic, or uh, I uh, I I remember a woman I knew as Aunt Edna, who had long black hair. Very, I loved that long black hair, and this was she lived at the head of the holler that I lived in, and her mother had a little cabin up there, and she was um, Native American and had managed to stay there and was not part of the forced removal. And there were those around that did manage to survive there.
Yeah.
But uh, her mother inspected me when I was brought home from the hospital, where uh, I was the first one on either side in my family to be born
To
in the
go to.
hospital.
Mhm.
And she looked at me and said that I had been marked by the sign of the bull. Well, you know, how many people have a Native American neighbor who lives in a cabin in a holler that makes a pronouncement about them as a baby?
Yeah.
You know,
That's the thing. It's so far outside by now.
yeah,
And yet, you and I have similar backgrounds in that I was raised in a farming community. Now, where I grew up, it was not uh, hill country, but my grandparents, uh, after they retired from running a general store, went down to land that had been in the family since my great great grandfather. He got it from somebody after he was mustered out of the Civil War. And there is a story, and it may or may not be the case, that he married a native person. And I haven't been able to confirm that. But in any case, they set up housekeeping in the side of a hill on this property. That's what my grandfather, we were driving along, I was picking up wood. Now maybe I've told this story, but and there was a bowl or something laying there, a bottle, and I said, "Well, where's that from?" He said, "Oh, this is my grandfather." He said, "My grandparents set up housekeeping here, and I was looking for a foundation." He said, "No, no foundation. It was a dugout side of the hill. That's where they, as he called it, set up housekeeping." So there's that, who can relate to that now? And when I first saw that place at the age of 8, my uh, great great uncle would have been, if it was my great grandfather's brother, it must have been great great uncle, was plowing a field with a horse, old Jim. So, you have that kind of, so I don't know. People of us, it is hard for some to imagine more remote. And as time goes on, it gets more and more remote. Uh, but there are still people there who would relate to that. You just, if you encounter them and start talking about it. But anyway,
those things made a tremendous impact on me, and I've
yeah,
I've
me too.
I've seen our great grandchildren today, and their world is so much more imaginary. Now they live,
In the built environment.
yeah, they live in the country, but they've got electricity, they've got indoor plumbing,
Yeah.
they've got access to cell phones. They see them used all around them. They spend time outside,
But it's not the same.
uh, but it's yeah, you don't have uh, it, they're closer, and they're closer than most, and but they spend a great deal of their time. Their minds are taken into media, and
Yeah.
and so the very nature of reality is changing. When you
Yeah.
spend more time, like we're spending
Yeah.
even,
Yeah.
uh, and I have to, I kind of question that. I'm looking at my involvement in media as I go. Uh, One of my closest friends over the years, uh, my my son Aaron brought him home, Vic Tanner,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and Vic had just uh, finished his schooling in Cicero, I think it was, Indiana,
Oh, okay.
and and we became friends. And I don't know, maybe Aaron knew that he was going to be hitting the road a lot, uh, and which he has done as a musician, and he's currently up in North Dakota playing music, working in a music store. Has had several trips to Ireland. He had a wonderful lady friend over there, but they just couldn't get over the distance barrier.
Yeah.
He couldn't really move there because of circumstances. And but anyhow, he left behind this friend Victor, and Victor has gone on. He's got a degree in new media, and he has become a person that I listen to a great deal when in regards to media. Uh, and uh, and I I'm constantly assessing my relationship to media and to reality.
Yeah.
I and I can see how, in a way, the written word also affected major changes in the world. When people were able to start reading the Bible for themselves and interpreting what they read, that changed the world. When they started writing stories, uh,
Writing them. Yeah.
writing, yes,
Not
and
just
reading,
remembering. Yeah.
writing and reading changed the world, and printing.
Yeah. Went hand in hand. Yeah.
Yes, having been a reenacted Benjamin Franklin and looking closely at that period of time, what a huge change. And it was a change driven by media, just like reading and writing. When people started drawing pictures on cave walls,
Yeah.
that changed the world.
Mhm.
And when they started drawing those pictures and looking at them and making, you know,
Symbols.
stories, yeah, symbols turned into stories and an interactive thing. I, I, I'm really fascinated by all that
Yeah.
and want to understand it better. But one thing's for certain, I don't want to lose touch with the natural world. I respect it. I love it. I'm not a good woodsman. My vision is not that great, and I'm not that practical a person. But I I see that world as sacred.
Hence
And
hence your song, The Land.
yes,
That was really a very profound, fundamental statement.
yes, I my dad loved to build stuff. He built a couple of houses. One he laid up out of concrete block, and another one was framed. And I had to help dig the foundation. And I had trouble with it, not because it was hard work, but I didn't like the smell of of dirt dug too deep. I felt like it was kind of an act of desecration, and I've had some problems with gardening to an extent, not as bad because at least you're planting stuff and not
It's different. Yeah.
you're not pouring concrete and
No, and if you do like Barbara and I and others, you can enrich the soil. You can, actually preserve and care for it in a way that
right.
construction and concrete, different thing.
Yes, and the 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 construction industry, business, our culture has desacralized the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
They talk
just
about the
treated,
extractive the extractive economy,
yes,
constantly pulling from, nothing going back.
yes.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I struggle with, and uh, I guess that with my particular uh, take on all that on reality and what's involved, I'm pretty happy with where I've ended up in terms of being present in the world.
Yeah.
I I do respect the earth and the things of it. I respect the sacred. I have a sense of being present in a miracle. When I when you know when I see us on this computer screen that I'm looking at, I see two people that are the present in a miracle. How did all this come to be, Tom?
Well, it's interesting you use that word miracle, and having just spoken about the rural land, trees, air-based. So this is not, it's called, and I've read this to you before, not on these, but the word miracle is in there, and I think you'll see why. It's called a springtime memory. Darting quick as light in a clear pool of creek water, small hands held still just above the surface, waiting for the right instant to splash and trap and funnel them into a jar to behold the miracle of minnows. That's what, as soon as you said miracle, I thought, oh, I've got to read that one. Because you've seen this, you've possibly done this. But anyway,
I spent a lot of time in uh, Indian Creek around Trafalgar there,
yeah,
and before that, just just out and about in the woods. My mother didn't know anything about raising kids. She was had one younger brother, and the older girls had helped raise him, and uh, so I was allowed more freedom, or sometimes allowed and sometimes
okay,
absconded with more freedom than
yeah,
when I look at the great grandchildren. and I think of them doing the things that I did. It just horrifies
Oh,
me.
oh, I know. Yeah, I mean, I missed several golden opportunities to die. I mean, stuff that, it's just amazing. Horses, you know, bicycles, just various things that, um,
Yeah.
oh, I just think some of the events, that, accidents and, risks,
Yes.
any one of which could have been the end of it.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was then.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's it. That's right.
that's just the way it was. And, I had an older, how to, especially with boys. I mean, I had an older cousin. If he'd have told me, well, he did a couple of times. Hey, why don't you do that? And I thought, well, if Ricky told me to do it, you know, uh, and but I survived it
Yeah.
because heck, he would have done it. He did do it. Some of the toboggan run down in this hill country, it was Pond Creek, it was called. And this toboggan run we made on the side of a hill, how we lived through that, when I think about that run down through these trees,
Yeah.
it was just like, oh my God. That's just one example. But anyway,
But when we take our memories and compare them, and your poetry, my music, and compare them to what's popular in the media,
yeah.
uh, uh, so much of it is aimed at encouraging romance
Yeah.
and uh, the
Who knows what? I don't know what a lot of it even says. I mean, it's the commercial, it's the music industry. So the industry of anything
right,
is to sell it.
right, and it supports a view of the world that I really have trouble with.
Yeah, or even in some cases, I don't even know what it means. More and more, or increasingly, I haven't even heard it. Uh, and this has been true for years because I'll be around my bandmates and they've got cultural, musical references, movies. Frank, I don't know where I've been, but I haven't been there. So disturbing, not disturbing, it's just totally in a lot of cases absent. You know, didn't pay any attention.
Well, Tom, I feel like it's really good for me to have this discussion.
Me too.
We are running out
Yep,
of our
yep. We've pushed it all the way to an hour today, Frank.
time,
Darn near.
and it's been a wonderful chat, and
Well, I've certainly enjoyed it.
we'll be putting it on YouTube and Facebook. So whatever else is on there, this is going to go on there alongside of it.
Okay.
Uh, if for folks that are interested, my YouTube channel is at Acoustic Indiana /YouTube. So this is something to say, and that'll be one of the playlists on my channel. And come by and see us. Tom, it's been wonderful, and I'll be looking forward to see where we end up next week.
Yep.
I saw that the Indiana Music History Project has a poster out. Wayne Birch.
Oh, yes. Yes, it sure does.
Uh, how much are those, and where can people get them?
You can go to the Indiana Music History Project website. In fact, if you just Google Indiana Music History Project,
Uh-huh.
they are available for sale on that site. He produced, they're all numbered. You know how a lot of prints will have a number/number.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they each have one of those. And I think he may have had 200 of them. That's mine is I don't know what it is, something slash 200. So presumably that's what was the initial print run. But they can be purchased. And I've got mine sitting right over there, framed it. It's a very nice, it's poor. And I think they're 20 bucks. Yeah.
Where did you get it framed?
I went, it's a simple, narrow, black frame that I got at, and it's it is a poster frame because that way you don't lap over any of the imagery. So
Uh-huh.
like, I mean, it's like that. It's black. It's about that thin. And I
Uh,
bought it uh, at, it didn't cost very much, at Joann Fabrics. Now you can get them
oh,
at, you can
okay.
get them at
Yeah.
Michael's, but I happen to be in Joann Fabrics with Julia, getting another thing our daughter-in-law did, framed or new reflective or glass that won't let the sun, that type of thing in. But it's a simple, and they're not expensive. And but that's what you need, is a poster frame so that the frame is real narrow. And I've got mine hanging right up over there. So yeah, they're 20 bucks. Indiana Music History Project, and you'll see them right there. They can be purchased, 20 bucks.
Awesome.
And it's beautiful poster and supports the Indiana Music History Project. So
Tom, thank you so much.
thank you, Frank. See you next week.
I'll be looking forward to it.